No,
Do it.
I hadn't, but because I was still actually going through the final classes,
Mm-hmm.
um and uh after after the last workbook lesson and the last uh manual for teachers reading, I had to do a practical. So I chose to do the radio show. And that's how we met.
That's how we met. Yeah,
Mhm.
I have told Rev Tony that you are still with us. There's only a couple of you that are still, everyone else has kind of dropped off, but uh, it was great that we got these great teachers. All right, I'm going to play you a song.
I loved it. Actually, I thought I'd be like frightened to death, but I just absolutely love talking about the course.
Yeah, you know, you are a natural. All right, well, here comes your song.
Thank you.
Remember, I'm one with God. Abide with Him. Just become familiar.
The light has come. You are healed, and you can heal. The light has come. You are saved, and you can save. The light has come. You're at peace. And wherever you go, you bring peace. The light has come. The light has come. I have forgiven the world. The light has come. The light has come. I have forgiven the world. We do not see the ego shadow on the world today. We see the light, and in it we see heaven's reflection lie across the world. The light has come. The light has come. I have forgiven the world. The light has come. The light has come. I have forgiven the world. We dedicate this day to the serenity in which God would have you be. Keep it in your awareness of your
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here, and thank you, Lynn, for playing my all-time favorite song by the incomparable Netta Bowen. I am going to continue reading today from Living A Course in Miracles, but I wanted to let you know, give you a little heads up that next week I will be presenting some very original material based on my experience recently with the loss of a very beloved family member and how the course helped me get through this. And I cannot tell you how much of a difference it made for me, because knowing that death is not real and knowing that I am never separated from anyone I love, no matter what happens, is unbelievably comforting, and it can really get you through. Of course, I am allowing myself to grieve the loss of Bella, but I feel so close to her, and I never felt closer. So that being said, prepare for next week. But we are going to continue this week with reading from Living A Course in Miracles by the incomparable John Mundy, PhD. This guy has a great sense of humor. That's all I can say. Okay, so we are beginning with discipline and the mind. And this is a continuation of Chapter 17, Above All Else, Strengthening Motivation to Change. So here we go, discipline and the mind. The word discipline comes from the word disciple. A disciple is a follower of a teacher or a teaching. The teacher brings a teaching. Jesus is a rabbi, a teacher. Our minds are totally undisciplined. Being undisciplined, we have work to do before we can be healed and whole. We have to purify our perception to remove fear. How much time is given to compulsions, to hungers of the body we seem unable to control? And who is the quote unquote we who cannot control it? When we dissociate, get caught in a projection, or sidetracked by some habituated activity, we do not even attempt to try to control our minds. An addict does not attempt to control a craving. The addiction has won. There is no need to learn through pain, and gentle lessons are acquired joyously and are remembered gladly. What gives you happiness you want to learn and not forget? A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 21. Epictetus, the ancient Greek Stoic philosopher, said peace comes from living a simple life in which we learn to control the mind and to trim away both aversions and desires. Aversions are things we project against. We are called upon to be free of all denials and projections. Aversions are things we can't stand and try to stay away from. Desires are things we try to get more of. Wanting something or wanting to push something away from us makes the thing real. When we fall in love, we desire that person more than anything. Then, when we get divorced, we try to push that person out of our lives. My friend, Lori Coburn, tells the story of a young man who fell in love with a girl who had this cute little gap between her front teeth. Later, when they broke up, she became that gap-toothed bitch. Both extreme behaviors. Okay, both extreme behaviors, both judgments, first good, then bad, both reinforce the idea that something or someone exterior to us can make us happy or unhappy. Just as polishing iron can turn it into a mirror, so can a mind conditioned by discipline eliminates its mental rust. Sufi mystic Ghazali. To let go of the pollutants, the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, the stuff that is getting in the way of spiritual progress, calls for vigilance and correction with spirit. This is not hard work. In fact, it is much easier than not working. Not working, quote unquote, unconscious and dissociation, leads to despair and depression. We will eventually awaken. So why not awaken now? When you have learned how to decide with God, all decisions become as easy and as right as breathing. There is no effort, and you will be led as gently as if you were being carried down a quiet path in summer. Only your own volition seems to make deciding hard. A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 14. Mind wandering and mind training. We can probably all think of times when Spirit urged us to go one way. We went another and later wished we had not. If something goes against our better judgment, it's a good idea to stop, look, listen, and ask for correction. We are much too tolerant of mind wandering. We may call it meditation, but mind wandering is often simply dissociation, self-indulgence, rehearsal of the past, and daydreaming. Mind wandering is projection. It takes us away from rather than toward oneness. It can be recognized and corrected. A split or dissociated mind does not know what it wants. A unified and disciplined mind rests in contentment. With a unified mind, we simply go ahead and do what we are being asked to do. The real question is not, why can't I hear the voice of the Holy Spirit? The real question is, why don't I do what he is asking me to do so I can hear his voice even better? You have seen the extent of your lack of mental discipline and of your need for mind training. It is necessary that you be aware of this, for it is indeed a hindrance to your advance. A Course in Miracles, Workbook Lesson 95. Ah, but you say, I don't want to be brainwashed. We're already brainwashed, and 99.9% of the time, we listen to the indoctrination that comes from the ego and a consensus reality created and sustained by television, magazines, the radio, the internet, our neighbors, and more. Our minds are very undisciplined, very untrained. Our ability to listen to the Holy Spirit depends on our willingness to question our wandering minds, our machinations, fearful fantasies, beliefs, and illusions. When the mind is occupied with a name or form, it will grasp that alone. When the mind expands in the form of countless thoughts, each thought becomes weak. But as thoughts get resolved, the mind becomes one-pointed and strong. For such a mind, self-inquiry will become easy. Indian sage Ramana Maharshi. Clarity and commitment. Trying to give part of my commitment to God and part to the ego, I wind up with no definite results. A definite result is the experience of peace of mind. The more I pay attention to the Holy Spirit, the more I can't help doing what God would have me do. True discipline is remembering what we really want. Being disciplined, the positive result is automatic. The right hand does not have to let the left hand know what to do. The pianist does not think about where to place his fingers on the piano keys. The awakened mind does not think about the appropriate response. Say to the Holy Spirit only, "Decide for me," and it is done. For his decisions are reflections of what God knows about you. And in this light, error of any kind becomes impossible. Why would you struggle so frantically to anticipate all you cannot know, when all knowledge lies behind every decision the Holy Spirit makes for you? A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 14. Chapter 18, A Course in Mind Training. This is a course in mind training. All learning involves attention and study at some level. A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 1. You have seen the extent of your lack of mental discipline and of your need for mind training. It is necessary that you be aware of this, for it is indeed a hindrance to your advance. A Course in Miracles, workbook lesson, chapter 95. Learning through rewards is more effective than learning through pain. And because pain is an ego illusion and can never induce more than a temporary effect. A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 4. We're all addictive. We easily develop special relationships with food, drink, drugs, sex, money, and each other. We are addicted to our attitudes, prejudicial thoughts, traditions, customs, mores, and more. We are addicted to our quote unquote mindset, to our ways of seeing and being in the world. Habits and addictions often run our lives with little or no awareness on our part. We do things regularly, ritually, routinely. The word addiction comes from the Latin addictus, meaning something we yield to, something we are devoted to, something that we crave. The daily repetitive use of any habitual activity can hurt or help, retard or facilitate our physical, mental, and spiritual being. To allow mistakes to continue is to make additional mistakes. Recognizing and correcting destructive patterns of thinking and adopting constructive ones can facilitate our well-being. In fact, the healthy use of thoughtful patterns is a way of collapsing time rather than the continuance of time through dreaming. For this reason, the workbook lessons in the course are designed to help us to think more creatively and more peacefully. I have enjoined you to behave as I behaved, but we must respond to the same mind to do this. This mind is the Holy Spirit, whose will is for God always. He teaches you how to keep me as the model for your thought and to behave like me as a result. A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 5. Why do we do what we do? We may think our mother's cooking is or was the best, not because it is or was the best. We think it is the best because we kept putting her food in our mouths day in and day out, year in and year out. If I keep putting a certain kind of food in my mouth, I'll soon begin to crave it. You cannot separate yourself from the truth by giving autonomy to behavior. Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 2. Our thinking patterns are as ingrained in us as the accent that characterizes the sound of our speech. If you grow up in England, Boston, Argentina, or Russia, you have a distinct accent. Actors sometimes have to change their accents to play certain roles. So too can we, with the same simplicity, change our minds if we are willing to try it. It takes, however, a little willingness. Changing the mind then means being involved in a process of change. Animals live with inherent dispositions toward specific behaviors. They build nests, raise their young, grow old, and die without the neuroses and psychoses which characterizes the human mind. Interestingly, the only animals which develop neuroses are those we place in cages and those who live in our homes according to our rules. No, no, bad dog. We develop an identity based on our fundamental predispositions and inherited customs. We live not by reason, we live rather on impulse, convention, and routine reactions. We buy the game, we play the game, and the more we play the game, the more the game plays us. The more we lose sight of the game, the more we think the game is real, the less we can remember God. Eventually, everything returns to God. It is headed that way. It always has been. Though 1,000 paths present themselves, they are all detours and distractions. Save to follow the voice for God. In order to get quote unquote home, I have to give up all the ego's many distractions. So I might as well start cleaning house now so I can be happy now. Only the self-accused condemn. As you prepare to make a choice that will result in different outcomes, there is first one thing that must be overlearned. It must become a habit of response so typical of everything you do that it becomes your first response to all temptation and to every situation that occurs. Learn this and learn it well, for it is here delay of happiness is shortened by a span of time you cannot realize. You never hate your brother for his sins, but only for your own. Whatever form his sins appear to take, it but obscures the fact that you believe them to be yours and therefore meriting a just attack. A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 31. We resist being like our mothers and fathers, only to notice that as we get older, that we are very much like them. How aware are any of us of the programming that came from our family, neighbors, school, the church, and the greater society in which we live, the country of which we are a part? More than anything in the 21st century, television is telling us its vision. Changing our minds and changing our lives. According to the Greek philosopher Aristotle, moral excellence or virtue comes about via habit. We are what we do, said Aristotle. Excellence is a habit we cultivate. A good habit enables us to make right decisions. Virtue, said Aristotle, is a set of skills gradually developed over time through practice. We condition ourselves through patterns of thinking, which is why it makes no small difference whether we form habits of one kind or another from our very youth. Our thoughts become second nature and are an integral part of character. Routines, as such, are dangerous. because they easily become gods in their own right, threatening the very goals for which they were set up. A Course in Miracles, Manual for Teacher, Chapter 16. American philosopher William James was fascinated with the study of habituated patterns of thinking and with mysticism. According to James, habit is second nature, or rather 10 times nature. The Greek Armenian mystic and spiritual teacher said that most people sleepwalk through life. Our true identity can thus only be known when we recognize and ask for correction for routines. Only reason can change being. You do not realize the whole extent to which the idea of separation has interfered with reason. Reason lies in the other self you have cut off from your awareness, and nothing you have allowed to stay in your awareness is capable of reason. How can the segment of the mind devoid of reason understand what reason is or grasp the information it would give? A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 21. Aristotle, Nietzsche, James, and Gurdjieff saw dispositions, habits, and instincts as integral to the development of a spiritual life. For each, morality is a continuous chain of actions which arise out of an inner nature. Therefore, the thoughts we develop are of paramount importance. The Course is trying to get us back to that which is natural and reasonable. It is trying to help us regain possession of our minds so we can give our minds back to the mind. We are moving from mindlessness to mindfulness. This is a world of mindlessness. We have literally forgotten who we are. We think we are bodies trapped in a world in space and time. We return to mindfulness, to return to that which is natural. I have to be willing to take a step beyond the confined, habituate process of thinking adopted in the dreaming of the world. Realizing the power of the mind and how much we have overlearned the ego's lessons and how easily we become addicted to wrong-minded thinking, psychologist William Glasser, PhD, wrote a best-selling book titled Positive Addiction in 1976. Seeing how we are so easily addicted, he suggested that we try to develop some habits which help rather than hinder our progress through life. Positive addiction is something anyone can try for. There is no risk, since all positive addictions are simple activities that can be easily accomplished. There is no possibility of failure in what you attempt to do. What is hard to do, then do them long enough to become addicted. But what if you quit? You are no worse off than you were before. American psychiatrist William Glasser. Characteristics of negative habits. As we go through the first list, think of any debilitating habit like compulsive overeating, drinking, smoking, gambling, shopping, etc. Notice how many addictions are related to so-called bodily appetites, which are, according to the Course, not physical in origin. Anything a body does must first be a thought. Number 1, we choose to do it. We devote time to it. One good test for a true addiction is that it is probably something we do every day. An alcoholic drinks every day. We do it easily. It does not take a great deal of effort to light a cigarette, pour another drink, or veg out in front of the television. 3, we often do it alone. As we are not proud of ourselves when we engage a negative addiction, we often hide the fact that we do it. 4, it seems to have value for us. Smoking may calm us down. Drinking may help us temporarily forget our problems. A drug may help us to space out. 5, we criticize ourselves when we do it. We know that it is hurtful to us, and yet that fact does not stop us. 6, if we persist at it, things will get worse. Our health will deteriorate and our relationship will suffer. We will be less effective in our work, our finances will be depleted, and our self-esteem destroyed. Characteristics of positive habits. The first 3 characteristics are the same as for a negative thought pattern. The 4th, 5th, and 6th are similar and yet completely different. 1, we choose to do it. We devote time to it. We may or may not do it every day. 2, we do it easily. It does not take a great deal of effort to do it. According to Aristotle, moral action is easier and more pleasurable than immoral action. It is effortless to be kind. It requires energy to be unpleasant. 3, we can do it alone. It is non-competitive. Walking, reading, writing, playing a musical instrument, and meditation are examples of positive solo acts and patterns. 4, it has value for us. It enriches and improves our life mentally, physically, financially, socially, emotionally, and or spiritually. 5, we do not criticize ourselves when we do it. In fact, we feel better when we do it. 6, if we persist at it, things will get better. Our health, finances, and relationships will improve. If we persist long enough, we might master our art and become a specialist, expert, or virtuoso in our field. Creating new patterns, asking for Spirit's guidance. The habit of engaging with God and His creations is easily made if you actively refuse to let your mind slip away. A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 4. Stop reading and lace your fingers together. Look at which thumb is on top. We habitually do it the same way without thinking. Now redo it, and this time consciously switch the thumbs. Doing so nudges us into a different neurological pathway. Do anything repeatedly, and before long, it becomes automatic. We do not think about where our fingers go when we type on the computer. Pianists do not think about where to place their fingers on the piano. To switch our thoughts, we have to think first. We do not think about following the ego. We do not plan on being judgmental and projective. It is so ingrained, we do it automatically. We literally do not think about what we are doing. To switch thinking from the ego to the Holy Spirit, think first. Look at the judgment, see it, and then laugh at it. Smile at it, and then let it go. It takes a little willingness, and yet before long, following inner guidance and developing miracle-mindedness can, with time, become as natural as breathing because it is the most natural thing of all. Miracles are habits and should be involuntary. They should not be under conscious control. Principle number 5 of the 50 miracle principles. It takes consistent effort to retrain the mind. I've read 4 suggestions as to how long it takes to make or break an addiction. 21 days, 30 days, 40 days, and just about forever. With consistent effort, we may either discontinue or develop a new pattern of thinking and thus a new way of being. When breaking a physical addiction, like alcohol, smoking, or drugs, we must persevere to become free. Jesus in Luke chapter 11, verse 18, speaks of the importance of importunity, consistent asking. We should not be surprised that when it comes to breaking our addiction to the ego, it's going to require persistence. Indeed, the ego will resist mightily. As the ego was developed in a day, it takes willingness to change our thinking patterns. And yet, where all reality has been withdrawn from what was never true, can it be hard to give it up and choose what must be true? A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 26. Miracles represent freedom from fear. Atoning means undoing. The undoing of fear is an essential part of the atonement value of miracles. Principle number 26 of the 50 miracle principles. Undoing, purification, and purging. Alcoholics Anonymous, the most successful program for dealing with alcoholism, is a process of deprogramming or undoing. The principles of Alcoholics Anonymous, according to Dr. Bob, one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, can be expressed in 6 words. Trust God, clean house, help others. When someone in Alcoholics Anonymous recovery program encounters distress, they can call a sponsor and or attend a meeting. When distress is encountered while studying the course, call on the Holy Spirit for help. The Holy Spirit is available 24/7, and you will never get a busy signal or have to leave a message. Just get quiet and move to a place of reasonableness, sanity, within the mind. Give up what you do not want and keep what you do. How simple is the obvious? A Course in Miracles, Manual for Teachers, Chapter 4. Happiness comes in finding freedom from the ego. Purification in the physical sense is traditionally understood as the burning off of the slough, the rust, the unnecessary debt, the extra weight, the burning judgments, and ego demands placed on the world and on us. In the same way, in forgiving, we let go of what is not true and release our projections so that the truth can move to the fore. Mystics often describe a series of steps or stages in the development of a mystical life. Mystics with as widely different backgrounds as Evelyn Underhill, Teresa of Avila, Sufism, Bernadette Roberts, and Gurdjieff, all describe as the first step in spiritual development is purgation. Purgation means purifying, getting rid of the unessential, cleansing,
clarifying, etc. The first step toward freedom involves a sorting out of the false from the true. A Course in Miracles textbook, chapter 2. I do some counseling by phone. Very often when someone calls, it will be because of some issue they have, usually having something to do with someone else and the way they have been treated, offended by, or disappointed by a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, employer, etc. It usually takes about 20 minutes for them to spit it out or regurgitate the poison that has built up inside. Then, when they finally settle down, I've noticed that my most usual response is to say, you know, I think you're going to have to let this go. And though I may not say it, I think because this is making you sick. My friend, Janine Carril, described her experience in stopping smoking. She was proselytizing to a young man about the power of God, and at the same time, she was smoking a cigarette. She said to the young man, God can do anything. To which the young man replied, if God can do anything, then why can't God help you stop smoking? The next day, as she lit a cigarette, she remembered the incident with the young man. I'm sorry, I lost my place. Yes, she remembered the incident with the young man from the previous day. She snuffed out the cigarette and never smoked again. It was a simple matter of a decision. We can be seduced by the ego, our seeming needs and wants, or we can choose to see it God's way. Letting go of the ego isn't easy, but it becomes progressively easier as we turn it over to the Holy Spirit. Correction belongs at the level where change is possible. We need guidance at the mind level. If the mind changes, everything changes. I just wanted to share briefly the story of how my husband Jim quit smoking. We have been married 22, 23 years. I lose count, but he was not a smoker when I met him. He quit years before I met him. And he had tried many things. He had been smoking since he was 13. In his 40s, early 40s, I guess he was smoking like a pack, like maybe 2 packs a day or something like that. And he tried hypnosis. That was really popular at that time. And he underwent hypnosis in a session that was really supposed to be so powerful that it stopped smoking just like that. A couple of his friends did it the same day and they quit smoking. Jim left the hypnotist's office and lit up a cigarette that afternoon. So it was really difficult for him. Back then, I don't think they were doing medical, like actually like medicine to prevent you from smoking. So he was really struggling with it. And one night he just prayed to God. He prayed to quit smoking. He said everything else didn't work. You know, what did he have to lose? So the next day he had no desire to smoke and he never smoked again. I think that is a remarkable testimony. I have a similar testimony. I didn't have a substance abuse problem, but I was in a relationship that was very unhealthy. And I just
was so depressed about it, I wanted to extricate myself from the relationship. I was very attached to my fiance and wanted to help him, wanted to pull him back from his addictions. Um, I just didn't know what to do. I had tried everything to help him. And I don't know, I wasn't studying the course at the time. I was studying a different thought system, but the thought system did tell me over and over again that I was doing this to myself. It didn't have the course's metaphysics, but I did definitely believe that whatever kind of suffering I was going through, I was doing it to myself. So I thought, why pray, to get rid of this relationship? Why not pray to get rid of the addiction to the relationship? And that's what I did. I didn't use those words, and I didn't even pray in the conventional way. That's what I wanted. I wanted to get over the addiction. The next morning was the most incredible change. I woke up and I wasn't thinking, did he go to work? Do I have to cover for him? Should I call someone and find out where he is? I wasn't thinking any of that. I didn't care about what was going on with him. I really just wanted to go to work. And I was happy just going to work. And that was the beginning of the end of that relationship. Because when the addiction was gone, I did not have any investment in the outcome. And that is my testimony. So, continuing, the holiness habit. Every single moment of every single day, we are at choice. We are always at a point of decision between truth and illusion. Doing God's will, which is our own will, is freedom. This makes no sense to the ego. To the ego, if God wins, we lose. Truth is, it is only as God wins that we win. We all win. We can be free or we can remain a slave. We know when we are choosing for the ego, and we know when we choose for God. Right-mindedness is the will to turn it over. You must change your mind, not your behavior. And this is a matter of willingness. You do not need guidance except at the mind level. Correction belongs only at the level where change is possible. A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 2. Awakening means choosing the right mind and thus ceasing to give control to the ego. Awakening, mind melts into spirit. It is a matter of choice. Resisting temptation is a matter of will, not willpower, just willingness. It is simply a choice to see correctly. There is no need to attack or dethrone the ego. I simply cease giving power to it. Your practice must therefore rest upon your willingness to let all littleness go. A Course in Miracles, textbook, chapter 15. Each fall and spring, when it is cleanup time in our community, the Department of Sanitation trucks come around and picks up old rugs, broken appliances, furniture, etc. One thing you notice are a number of ab loungers and tummy trainers out along the curb. It was a good idea, maybe, but obviously it is not something which is being used. Despite the presence of these gadgets, the fact remains,
The best way to lose weight is not to eat too much. And if I want to work on my abs, I can go for a walk, do crunches, sit-ups, leg lifts, and more. There is no need for special equipment. No pills or magical formula is required. What is required is not magic. It is simply a choice. Who is the decider? In a similar way, spiritual development requires discipline and regular, daily, hourly, sometimes minute by minute commitment to the truth. In other words, it means practice. Structure then is necessary for you at this time, planned to include frequent reminders of your goal or regular attempts to reach it. Regularity is advantageous for those whose motivation is inconsistent and who remain heavily defended against learning. A Course in Miracles workbook, lesson 95. The workbook of the Course is here to help us with our daily practice. And the better we get in our practice, the greater the ease with which we come to live the Course. There is no set way to do the lessons in the workbook, though it's best to begin and end the day doing a lesson. Some folks write the lesson on a Post-it notepad and then put it someplace where it can be seen throughout the day. On the side of the computer screen, in the checkbook, or on the dash of the car. Some folks leave a copy of the Course in the bathroom where they can sit reading over a lesson at the beginning of each day. Reading the lesson before stepping into the shower and then repeat the lesson while in the shower. Make it a screensaver on the computer. That's an interesting idea. The methodology is less important than our willingness to remember to do what is asked of us. Forgiveness is acquired. It is not inherent in the mind, which cannot sin, as sin is an idea you taught yourself. Forgiveness must be learned by you as well, but from a teacher other than yourself, who represents the other self in you, capital S. Through him, you learn how to forgive the self you think you made and let it disappear. Thus, you return your mind as one to him, who is yourself and who can never sin. A Course in Miracles, Workbook Lesson 121. I am going to pause here because it is 4 o'clock and I'm going to head over to Mom's. This has been a very wonderful program today. These chapters are just amazing. What an amazing writer, what an amazing teacher. John Mundy, PhD. So I will be with you all again next week when I will discuss my observations through the eyes of A Course in Miracles on death, loss, and sorrow. Fun topics. Thank you so much for listening. I will be with you all again next week. Bye for now.
Thank you so much.